everyone. Welcome to Fintech Mavericks. I'm Nicole Casperson.
And I'm Drew Glover.
Today, we are sitting down with Stephany Kirkpatrick, the CEO and founder of Orum, a company that provides instant access to all major payment rails and has raised an impressive $82 million since its inception. Am I right still?
You are still right.
Yes. Okay. Stephany founded Orum in 2019 with a simple yet powerful belief that people should have immediate access to their money. Imagine that. With Orum, she created an easy-to-use API for instant payouts, helping businesses rethink how they move money. Her commitment to financial accessibility is deeply personal, and as the daughter of an immigrant and a certified financial planner, she has dedicated her career to helping those with less gain more. Very Fintech Maverick. Welcome to the show, Stephany.
Thanks, you guys. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to jump in with, I pretty religiously follow you on LinkedIn and see all of your posts. So if you don't follow Stephany, be sure to. You're always so filled with so much founder advice and being so honest and authentic about your journey. One thing you often talk about is, not being a technical founder, which I think can be a confidence, lack sometimes for founders in the fintech space. So how did you maybe convince others, whether it's investors or partners and sort of all the people that you needed to get involved and back you, how did you get them to see that you were the one that not only was the perfect founder for Orum, but also the one to execute on your mission?
Well, let's back up and I'll give you a little bit of background so I can answer that question. It's something I love talking about because I do think as a non-technical founder, one, there aren't that many of us, and there aren't that many women non-technical founders. And there's, I think, a reason for that. So first of all, listeners, I'm Stephany Kirkpatrick. I'm founder and CEO of Orum. I'm thrilled to be on Mavericks today and just excited to have this conversation. For those that don't know our business, we transform payment technology for businesses, and we're focused on revolutionizing payment speed, certainty, and orchestration through two products: Deliver, our 24/7 payments API, and Verify, which does instant bank account verification. Those sound like technical things, and they are, but I've never written a line of code. However, I grew up in financial services. I grew up being super obsessed and interested in the problem of what I call time to money. And I think when I ultimately decided to take the leap of faith after being in fintech, being at a startup, being in a scaled business, going through an exit, and actually taking a left turn and working at SoulCycle for a couple of years, I decided to just bet on myself. And all that imposter syndrome that builds up around how will I do it and what if I'm not good enough, I tried to bottle as best I could. And I decided that I have two things that I think are really critical. One, I'm a great storyteller. I know this problem really deeply. I can talk about it. I can internalize it. I can visualize the person on the other side of an instant payment transaction. I know what the change in the world looks like. And I think if I can build a compelling vision, I can help people get on board with what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, I'm really good commercially. This is a strong suit. I like other people. I like sales. I like making connections. And when I think about what makes technical founders great, it's their ability to write code and rapidly deploy all kinds of iterations and changes and experiment. And then eventually, in order to scale their businesses, guess what they have to hire? Great storytellers, good marketers, and good go-to-market people. So I figured, hey, somewhere in this world, I bet it's possible for me to hire from my weakness because I don't have all the strengths. And so ultimately, that's what I decided to do, is to found a company, raise capital, none of which was easy, and to say, in doing so, I'm going to take some of my first dollars. I'm going to go hire somebody who will be my technical partner in the business. And that person will be able to work with somebody like me to figure out how to translate what I'm thinking, visualizing, and planning and turn it into the actual application layer. And it's not as hard as it sounds to be able to say, hey, I'm going to make a great hire and we're going to make it work.
Yeah. I mean, I love this element of how you've thought about building. I think it's instead, right, flipping it on its head. Instead of thinking like, oh, there's all these things that I lack, it's like, oh, here's all the things that I'm really great at that are totally necessary, especially the storytelling element. I'm a professor and I teach students, and so often I'll be asked, what's the number one thing you would have, a Harvard business student that you're talking to, or Parsons or whatever, what's like a skill you think they should have today? And I'm like, storytelling. You can learn everything else. Technical, you can hire for that, right? Technical, you can learn that. But it's very, very hard to become an expert storyteller, and that only comes with observation, experience, right? Being really grounded in your why and your mission and having that conviction of, oh, there's no one else better than me to take this on, and or even just like a why not me moment.
Exactly. And somebody actually gifted me a book before I was a founder that's called The CEO Next Door. And I don't love management books, but I love this book because it chronicles all these incredible CEOs, many of them running public companies, some of them running really profitable private companies. And they're literally people you've never heard of. They didn't go to Harvard. They don't have CS degrees. And I felt like I saw myself in that story, which is I love building. I love thinking about 0 to 1. I like a blank piece of paper. I know how to activate other people to motivate around an idea and execute. And so why not me? Even though when I started to think about raising capital, I did get feedback that I needed a technical co-founder. And I really seriously thought about, should I do that? And what are the trade-offs? And I think because women tend not to be in STEM programs early in their childhood, and then they tend not to go get engineering degrees, there isn't an abundance of technical female founders. And so I think there's actually like a fundamentally sort of interesting problem that we could be solving, which with 2 daughters, age, 8 and 10, I think about a lot, which is how do I expose them to writing code? How do I expose them to math and science in a way that's digestible and fun so that when the time comes for them to pick a study area and career path, it won't be a foregone conclusion that they're not technical and not good at math, which is what we teach girls to think. And they might be in a position different than I was to actually be not only an entrepreneur, but somebody who's in the technical ecosystem. So I hope 10 years from now, we're having a very different conversation about technical founders.
No, I love that, and I have a 3-year-old daughter as well, and I think about very similar things. But hearing your personality and me talking to you on this podcast, off this podcast, you have this like confidence that is undeniable and this energy that's undeniable. And I'm so curious, when you were thinking about moving away from corporate, starting this business, did you even like sit and think about, man, I should go figure out how to do code? Or were you just saying, no, like, I'm going to will my way through it because of who I am? But did you think you had things that you needed to fill? Or were you like, no, I'm just going full steam ahead?
Once I decided to go in and really do this, I decided to go full steam ahead. And I think some of that's just the influence of being able to have been in product roles before, where I did have product and engineering teams that I worked with. So I know what it looks like to write a PRD and think about a user story and how to QA and like get something out to market. I know a lot about minimum viable planning and like what's a small thing we can build. And so those things I wouldn't have had if I hadn't worked in fintech before. But I think I also wouldn't have had some of the confidence of actually leaving the industry. So when I went to SoulCycle back in 2018, I turned out a job to go to Goldman Sachs, which is the job I should have taken, right? If you're thinking about, sort of credentials. And I had to go figure out an industry where, I don't know anything about hardware. I don't know the supply chain. I don't know anything about being creative, which, by the way, we had to build content into our product. And I was really unlocked in that role from going away from just being a subject matter expert in fintech and financial services to becoming a generalist builder and operator. And I think that gave me more confidence than anything probably I've experienced to date, is just walking into a place where I actually don't belong and I don't have any material industry knowledge and having to figure it out really motivated me to say, now I'm ready to go found something.
And so I am just really fascinated by this because you're in fintech, you got out of fintech, and you fell into an industry that was like very sexy, like commercially, like very sexy to the world. Like,
Did you call me sexy?
no,
I think I could sexy.
I called the industry that you were in sexy.
We all
For the
call the
record.
tech or the industry
But
sexy.
I mean, SoulCycle, at the height of its brand, like you were there, you were building products.
SoulCycle is very sexy.
Why the
Peak.
Equinox, like that
Yes.
owns like these are like brands that like it's like walking into a hotel that you love. It just kind of gives you that vibe. But why the hell did you come back to fintech?
I'm passionate
I love
about what
fintech.
I'm doing. I just love the problem space. And I think what really developed for me, and I saw this actually at SoulCycle, is there's a persistent problem in the infrastructure of how we pay and get paid, how businesses pay their invoices, how individuals receive money. And when we were building out part of the media platform at Soul for what became Equinox Plus, of course, we had all kinds of producers, and we had all kinds of videography. We had all kinds of artists and makeup folks. I mean, you name it, right? It's a production center. And all of these folks are essentially independent contractors. And they submit their invoice and they wait 45 days and then they get an ACH or they get a check that they have to come pick up. And it's just broken. Like the most recent innovation to access your own money is the ATM. Like we really fundamentally don't have the infrastructure that's necessary to start thinking about not just faster payments, but 24/7, 365, always on ability to move money around the ecosystem. And I just continue to see the problem. It was there when I was in fintech before. It was really, really obvious when I wasn't in fintech. And I just wanted to come back in. And it happened to coincide with the clearinghouse announcing that we were going to be building and launching the real-time payment network in the US, which is groundbreaking for the US. It's like 10 to 15 years old news relative to the rest of the world. But to see that opportunity, that felt like, hey, there's going to be a moment. And maybe I'm a little early, but I want to be early, not late, in leading the revolution and thinking about infrastructure in a different way.
I think about that as well, even in terms of where I sit in the media landscape. I mean, I think it's important to have that conviction to see a trend early and be open to being on the, for lack of a better word, cutting edge of that. Also, just even as a small business owner myself and as a human in general, I get amazed almost every weekend that comes by, like, I can't move money right now. We haven't figured that out, guys. Hello, hi, we're at Fintech Meetup recording it live, and I'm like, no one. Well, you know. Anyways, obviously we're sitting with someone figuring it out, but like we haven't figured this out yet. This is insane, right? Because I think what thing that you probably have, and is the behavioral element in the EQ, right? Right, you said earlier, to see the person on the other side, right? At the end of the day, all this money movement and transactions, there are humans on the other side of these things who are going through very real things, right? I mean, right now everyone's obsessed with the economy, and then and that's kind of bearing down our necks on top of, I can't move money on a Saturday?
Right. Well, let me break it down for you. Let's talk about a real life example. So we have a customer that serves what I'm going to still call the NAFTA corridor. I think we still call it that, but we'll see. And they're paying truck drivers who we rely on to deliver goods and services up and down that corridor. And a truckload gets unloaded and they're due their wages. Now, before Orum, that was going onto a fuel card, which means that driver's ability to spend their wages is gated to essentially paying or buying things at like a Love's gas station, where prices are high, options are limited. And oh, by the way, you can't easily put that money in your savings account or invest it, right? So we came along and partnered with a company called Flexent. We introduced to them through our no-code option the ability to take their existing gotcha file that they would otherwise have sent somewhere else that would have funded the fuel card and transform it into an unlocked solution to take RTP, FedNow, and now most recently Visa Direct and unlock all of these folks to be able to have money directly in to their bank accounts, right? So they can choose, are they spending it? Are they saving it? Are they investing it? Where are they going with it? And they're no longer limited. We do that 24/7, 365. And it's a fantastic way to visualize when we talk about faster payments at the benefits, exactly what happens when you can change and unlock for people their ability to access the broader components of financial services that prior to that, they didn't even have right to go use. So that's what gets me excited. I will say, and you guys will probably laugh, being early is hard.
Yeah.
When we launched RTP before we had our complete Deliver API, we just had that. I mean, I would count the 50 RTPs a day and then 100 and then it was 300. It wasn't like real-time payments immediately took off, in part because in the US, we have thousands of banks, right? And there's just a major overhaul to go from a batch-based framework technically to what we offer. So it's exciting to sit at that intersection of totally new tech, but it's also important to be patient.
Yeah.
And to really think about where do we place our bets and how do we take faster payments but incorporate it into a broader model that basically feels like Amazon same-day delivery. Do you really care if the box comes UPS, FedEx, Postal Service, Amazon's Blue Van? No. Do you definitely care how fast it can get to you and how certain the delivery window is? Apply that to payments, and that's exactly why we exist.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like such a no-brainer to me that in my head, I'm like, you can't imagine you had a hard time, but of course you did, right? Like, we all do. I feel the same way. I'm like, hi, I have a market that no one else is tapping into. No, 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 no. You know, you want this. I hold the keys to the kingdom. Don't you want this? And of course, you're gonna get all the types of people that don't understand or aren't able to see that vision so as clearly as you. I guess, how did you communicate it? But yeah, tell us about your storytelling.
Well, what I found is real life examples make a lot of sense. So, like I just said with Amazon, suddenly your head's in a different place and you're like, that's right. I don't know if it comes UPS or FedEx. So, why do I care if it's ACH or same day AC or RTP or FedNow? What I care about is speed and certainty. So, finding places where people can stop thinking so technically and with so many acronyms, and they can start seeing themselves in the problem. They can look around a room, they can live life and be like, oh, yes, that's also a problem. This is a problem. It helps unlock how we go to market and how we talk about our products. And I think, raising capital, it's not just about what we're going to build first, like easy access to RTP, and then to where we are today. It's what are we going to continue to do with that infrastructure to transform financial services? And what's interesting to me as I've developed more, obviously payments knowledge than I had when I came in the door is that there is actually a lot of demand for what Orum offers. But up until very recently, most payment vehicles have been sold via banks. So most novel, innovative companies don't have the wherewithal to go get that. And frankly, most small businesses, and let's be clear, B2B is like the biggest part of money movement, they don't know where to go look either. So, but figuring out both the problem and surface area, but also the go-to-market challenges has been really powerful for us. And I just continue as a certified financial planner to think if I can contextualize it into a real life example, everyone has felt the pain somewhere. And it's way less about an Uber driver clocking out and getting paid right then and there than it is about, hey, when do you think about real estate transactions? Usually on the weekends when you want to go buy a house. And then what has to happen? You realize that you have money in a brokerage account and you need to get it liquid so that they can underwrite you so you can get a mortgage and you need to close. And as a business, you might get your settlement for your card swipes Monday after Friday's close of business, and you've got bills to pay, and that might not align. So it's just all about figuring out places where we can talk about the real everyday challenges. Costs can come down, profits can go up. Then people are like, oh, let's talk about payments, right?
This hits home. I just bought a house. Shout out to me for being in more debt.
Wow, congratulations.
But also be financially responsible.
True. Yes, listen, there's a lot of pluses there too. But I felt the pain that you were just kind of laying out there of like, cool, now we got to pay this down payment. Now we have money in a number of different places. We need to get it, into this one place so I can send it off to the person that sold me their home. Going back to when you're telling us all these examples, like it hits me, I'll speak to myself, when I hear about the end user's problem being solved. But I'd like to just talk a little bit more about the businesses that you are having to go to make it so we can actually get your infrastructure embedded. So ultimately that end user can be positively impacted. And I would assume, I know this based on your based on what Orum has built, this is an old, stodgy place that you're trying to innovate. And I'm just so curious, stepping into the mind of the business, how hard has it been to bring innovation and speed to a place that's historically been so slow?
It's all very good questions because to your point, most businesses buy software, they stick with that software, and that software doesn't evolve overnight. And so I would say what's been probably most common with businesses is that whether it's loan management, insurance platforms, right? Systems were designed to work in most cases with an ERP. And that ERP is the way in most corporate finance worlds, things get paid, invoices, et cetera. And because of the way ACH was rolled out and has gained adoption and been really entrenched technically, the world was very, in America, married to a batch-based file exchange. I mean, a notch of file is more or less an Excel spreadsheet, right? And that just entrenched. And so what we've done is we've said, hey, there's two different ways you can think about modernizing. Some companies are big enough or focused enough in technical areas that they're going to have a team of developers. So let's make an API layer so you can do everything programmatic and automated. But many companies, and especially those in some deep parts of financial services, they don't have the budget for or aren't going to get quickly to that modernization effort, or their vendor that they buy something from isn't going to do that right now. So how do we get those customers talking to us? And that's where we marry the world of API-based offerings with our no-code solution. And so we recently rolled out a front-end layer called Monitor, which allows you to track transfers down to the penny, run all your compliance in real time, and do it from a logged-in perspective, not just programmatically. And it's an unlock for these businesses who don't need to feel like they need to go make a big investment or a change. They just need to go from sending their file to place A to sending it to Orum, and we'll do the rest for them. So orchestration is probably one of the biggest, most material investments that we made, and we sit on a multi-bank, multi-rail backend, thus allowing our customers tons of flexibility, bank rate pricing, because we're connected directly to the Federal Reserve for payment services, and the confidence to be able to execute and get into all the arenas of faster payments without really taking a lot of business risk to do that. And at the end of the day, a lot of things we can do with faster payments can lead back to monetization for that business. So it no longer looks just like an extra cost. I think all of those things coupled together, particularly in the last few years where businesses are looking to be more efficient and run their bottom line better, has led to incredible growth for us.
That's awesome. Awesome. And one question before we switch over. Is America behind when it comes to this?
She said a couple times, yeah.
I know. How far?
Aren't
How
we?
far behind are we right now?
America's far behind from certain perspectives. And I think that you have to remember why that is. And it's not that we didn't want to do things differently. It's that we have a very big, massively large financial system.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at what made Pix in Brazil work, two things happened. One, there's only about 300 banks that had to get enabled. And there's legislative pressure. So there's regulatory pressure from the central bank. And critically, it happened to be timed with the pandemic era and the need for digital government disbursements for businesses. So there was like a catalyst. We have here just not had as much of a catalyst moment. And we have more financial services companies and banks, thousands of banks that would need to get ready. And some of it's tech, but I mean, RTP and FedNow and Visa Direct run 24/7, 365, and banks do not. They're like 9 to 4:30, definitely not on the weekends. So they also have to think about operational overhead, right? Which is why a tech company like us can do what we're doing and sit in the middle of the banks, of the businesses, and really marry everything together. But yes, I hate to say it, we are behind. I think we are catching up in our own way. But it's a lot like the rollout of Apple Pay, which was like this cute thing you could use once in a while, and now you can literally use everywhere. And I think we just have to remember that adoption takes time, but that's not a reason not to believe, and certainly not a reason not to invest.
Right. I mean, it's been one of the biggest hurdles for the fintech space in general, right, is the integration of these technologies into a financial infrastructure that, frankly, was not designed to ever have an overhaul, right? Especially any of the massive banks. They're like, ooh, we didn't think about innovation. Like, we didn't even think. We thought we were just going to be completely immutable and not change. And then, the internet happened. I kind of want to switch over and talk a little bit more entrepreneurship advice. So, Fintech Mavericks really came to be because of Drew and I's unequivocal belief that you do not have to sacrifice your soul to grow and scale a fintech company or a company in general, but we're focused on fintech here. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I love hearing that actually be said out loud, because right now, a lot of my LinkedIn feed is promoting tech companies who live together. They're under 26 years old. They work 9 to 9, 7 days a week. And on some level, that's fun and invigorating, but I'm 43, almost 44. I have 2 kids. And I wouldn't be able to be a founder if that was the only way.
Yeah.
Just truly. So I like hearing it said out loud and recognizing that there's many ways to be successful. There's many different models. And as much as that model for the young entrepreneur works for some, it couldn't work for me. And I still really wanted to be able to be a builder. And so I decided to build a company in a way that would support having the ability to have my kids know who I am.
Yep.
And I can be in their lives and they can be a part of Orum and they know what we do. If you ask my youngest, she can tell you, we make money move. She knows the
All
tagline, right? They know why I sit in my office if I'm working from home and like what's going on and that I have a team and I have to take care of other people. Um, and I think there's a lot to be said for how we can better support founders in being honest, in being open. Not every day is a good day. Most days are great.
Mm-hmm.
But you can go through like the founder stages of grief inside of an hour where you have like an absolute win and a high and like the worst low. And then you have to go to your next meeting
All at the same time.
all at the same time.
Everything, everywhere, all at once, all the time.
Yeah.
No, it's so true. What do you think for you has been the secret sauce then in balancing this idea that, we know to be true, which is, profit and purpose really are mutually reinforcing. They go hand in hand. They're not something separate that one is at the expense of another. How have you kind of shaped that around
Yeah,
your
the purpose component for me is like,
Yeah.
it's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because as a certified financial planner, if I wasn't working on Orum, I'd probably would be working on my own RIA, and being in the advice arena is important to me. So one, if I wasn't doing this, I would definitely still be working. I want to work. I want to have a career. I want to have a big career. So those things motivate me. But passion and purpose is, again, it's visualizing not just writing code, but also creating something better for the economy, for the
Mhm.
everyday household, for a business, and thinking through all the ways in which you can have impact in the work you do. And I think because I'm older and probably more confident in who I am now, I'm able to say, I don't need to look like that classic archetype. Not only am I not technical, but I do very much value being able to step away, go do deep thinking,
Mhm.
refuel my soul, get 8 hours of sleep. And I'm really proud of that. And I think my investors understand who I am. They knew coming in the door I was going to be a hard worker. There's a difference, though, between deep work ethic and hustle culture, which is like bragging rights about being busy, which I just don't associate with. And so you're never going to hear me talk about like pulling an all-nighter, even if I did. I'm going to like put the eye cream on and I'm going to like look alive and we're going to go about our day, because it's not about how many hours you worked. It's about how much impact you can figure out how to have. And we've got to stay healthy, right? And
Yeah.
I've had my own fair share of health concerns, including breast cancer in the last 12 months. And I don't want that to be a reason why I can't be a founder, right? I don't want to have kids be a reason why I can't be a founder. And I want to have a team that can rest on Saturday and Sunday so we can go hard on Monday,
Yeah.
right? And of course, by the way, RTP only ever breaks on a Sunday, classically. But we signed up for that. And we ride those waves when they come. And I think our team is just extraordinary at Orum because they share the same values. And we really spend a lot of time making sure both that we're very clear about what those values are and how they show up in how we hire, how we get feedback. Even this simple thing, right? We have a channel called Hypes and Brags in Slack.
Mm.
And a lot of the hyping and bragging about good work is tied back to the values, right? We are the heartbeat of our customers.
Mhm.
That means we fix it when it breaks. They never need to know something went wrong kind of thinking. And people just live up to that in a really incredible way.
And I think you lead by example, right? So you're
Yes.
setting the foundation, right? Tone at the top, all that good stuff. You're setting the foundation. You're saying, hey, we're going to do it like this and do it in a different way. And I encourage the 8 hours of sleep and to take care of yourself. These are very different things, right? Especially in a lot of startup culture where you're really kind of pressured to look as busy as possible, right? Like,
Always be working.
always
seems
be
to the mantra.
always be working, always be working. Or I think a better mantra is like always be selling, right? Like we can always be selling while we while we build relationships and do things and innovate our economy. But I mean, I think maybe two more questions for you before we wrap. But one, I would love maybe just a few tactical pieces of advices you have for founders that are kind of on this precipice of scale and want to make sure that they don't lose their purpose or their mission or that North Star in the process of that pressure to scale.
The pressure is very real. And I think what I come back to for myself, and what I talk to our team about every time we do a quarterly business review or a state of Orum, which is on the regular, I tend to close with something that talks about your why. And every anniversary, I write about it and the variations of my why. And I think my why can't be everyone else's. The reason I'm here, the reason this problem matters to me is a little bit different. And I think about it from this perspective, which is why this problem, why Orum, and why right now at this stage of company. And if people can connect with their why, whatever trade-offs you have to make to be in a startup become worth it and much better understood. But if you feel like you're grinding for a thing you don't understand or you no longer love, that is going to eventually turn into burnout for the founder, for the team. It just manifests. So I think it's really critical to, again, bring these stories to life. We bring our customers in, we bring people in person, we bring them on Zoom. We try to really highlight the impact and the amazing things that happen when we do our jobs and how we have fun together. And I think that plays into, as we've continued to scale, starting to sell, our products are being used by public companies today. So all of a sudden, we have to take our jobs really seriously, but we also have to have a lot of fun. And we try to just balance that out. And I do really try, as you said, to lead by example. I take vacations. I sign off. I do a lot of scheduled send just because I, as a crazy founder, might have an idea at, midnight.
Yep.
Doesn't mean I should be bombarding you. So I'll just schedule the send for like 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Smart.
Great technology makes this a lot easier.
That's smart. I know. I'm like, as an early founder, I know I'm so sorry to my team who I'll be like, thought crossed my mind and it's random. Here you go, right? And the send. That's a nice little
You can
trick.
schedule texts,
Yep.
Slack,
Yep.
and emails these days. It's great.
Yeah, and like
One of the hacks I've been doing is I actually speak my ideas into ChatGPT or Claude, and then I tell it to do it, and I just leave them there. I have one channel that I only put ideas
It's like
in,
notes to self.
and I let it sit there, and then when there's something that's good, I send it off. One kind of final question here. And there's so many like nuggets that you've shared with us throughout this entire conversation, which I'm just gonna assume you didn't know all of that when you first started Orum.
Certainly not.
And so I'm just so curious if you could just go back in time to the very beginning of Orum and just give a little bit of advice to Stephany. What would you say?
The first thing I would say is hire a coach sooner. So I work with an amazing startup coach. His name is Steve Schreck. He's phenomenal. And I did not start working with him at the beginning. I didn't know I needed a coach in that moment. I didn't know that it was worth spending money on. I just didn't know. And Satya Patel at Homebrew is extraordinary in every way, but he led our seed. And I raised capital in May of 2020, guys, barefoot in my 5-year-old's bedroom in the middle of a global pandemic. So there was a lot of things I didn't see coming. And in those moments, Satya in particular really helped me look around corners for myself. And so that's one piece of advice. I think the other piece of advice is, and it's played out, like really choose wisely who's going to be on your cap table. Matt Harris from Bain Capital Ventures, sometimes he'll call me and my phone rings and I know it's him and I answer and he'll say, I had 3 minutes. I just wanted to say hi. How you doing?
That's good.
How awesome is that?
Yep.
Right. I think in the early days, you feel this like urgency to just raise money and just make it work. And if you're not careful, you can overlook the importance of who the people are behind the dollars. And not all dollars and people are equal. So those are things I often talk about with early stage founders who are getting into the journey and trying to think it through. But honestly, the biggest thing is a coach sooner. That person has transformed me. It's a work in progress, but man, have I learned a lot.
Oh, I love it. That is a fabulous note to end on and great piece of advice. Stephany Kirkpatrick, thank you so much for joining us on Fintech Mavericks. Thank you for being a maverick
Thanks for having
in
me.
every shape and form. And yeah, excited to keep following Orum and the journey continues.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, we did it. Woo!